Hello, everyone. You are listening to the first episode of Stories to Hold, a podcast by me, Josie Jensen, and Sara Trujillo, where we ask people who are mostly connected to the South Seattle community the questions: what is the biggest pain you hold in your heart? Where do you feel the pain in your body, or what is it like to experience this pain? How have you coped with this pain in healthy or unhealthy ways? And how do you want the pain and the story that you've shared to be held by others? The purpose of this is to normalize holding conversations around pain so that more people can learn to accept their pain and to know that they're not alone in it as well. So in this first episode, you'll be hearing an interview Sara did with Kid Cobb, aka Corn, who is someone who uses his music as a bridge to stay connected to his community and his art to create reflections of subconscious emotions, experiences, and reality. Ripping out of Rainier Valley, Cobb seeks inspiration from modern-day cultures such as the perks of being a wallflower, Indie and Naruto. Since 2016, Cobb has released 3 projects with Totem Star via SoundCloud. You can stay connected with him at links, that's links with 2 I's, .co/justanotherkid from the South End spelled SOUFEND. And Corn is also Sara's partner. You'll also be hearing an interview that I did with Redskin, aka Skin, aka Brody Stevens, who is an indigenous Tulalip rapper, entrepreneur, was part of the making of Frank Ocean's debut album Channel Orange, and is currently part of the band The Grumps with Steve Fisk, and in general is just an amazing person who just makes things happen. I know Skin because he started a record label with my dad in our house when I was about 7 years old, and so to me, he's somebody that I grew up around, and he taught me a lot about music and the importance of music, and music as a way to reclaim your power and to also escape, and also just a lot about the realities of our world, and especially, as a white person from a young age, knowing that I'm on stolen land in a country built by stolen labor, knowing that, definitely has shaped how I move through the world and my understanding of it. So I'm very grateful to Skin for who he is and all he gives to the world, and for doing this interview with me. So without further ado, here are the interviews.
I'm here with Kid Cobb, and my name is Sara Trujillo, and he's here to tell us about his story to hold. So, Corn, or Kid Cobb, if you were to describe what is the biggest pain that you carry every day, what is your answer?
I'd say the biggest pain that I carry with me on the daily is that people will leave your life and people will enter your life. Whether that being losing someone extremely close to you, or meeting a person that you haven't met before, and being able to evolve, I think is the biggest pain, because there's pain in the process of growth itself. So being able to carry that every day and use it to your advantage is it honestly is a pain, because of course everyone wants things to sometimes stay the same or to stay consistent, but if that was the case, then I guess all of us would equally be lost together in, whatever we choose to get lost in.
How do you want your story to be held?
I mean, I think my story will always be held as, the idea of being able to overcome and to consistently get up time after time after time. And I'm not even talking about just like me and my life, I'm talking about generational, generational existence. I'm talking about who came before me and who will come after me. To face adversity that, people that look like me and that, also struggle with, real world things and real world problems that put us in positions to live a certain type of lifestyle. I think is how I kind of just, cope with it. I try to stay positive in believing that the things that I'm achieving and the things that I have to bring to the table and the things that I have to offer are, from a certain perspective, better than what my predecessor or the person that came before me, was able to obtain and to have for themselves. So I just try to hold gratitude with every moment going forward.
Well, I am grateful that you are here telling us about your experience. How have you coped with the pain, healthy or unhealthy? What's your everyday life like, and how do you cope with it? The pain.
I think you cope with the pain by continuing to embrace, not necessarily the unknown, but embrace what you have, embrace the present. That's the best way to really deal with it, is to cherish everything that's given to you after or during. I feel like just life in general has a very great way of making you realize the things that, you want to hold on to more. And sometimes we regret missing those opportunities. So I feel like the best way that I try to cope with everything that has happened and that's gotten me to where I am now is continuing to be grateful and appreciative of what I have, what I still have left, really, what's made it this far, because not every relationship, every opportunity, every experience, that I once or have previously, went through is still with me today in the same way. So being able to still take the positive things and the great experiences, the little things from those things, and carry them with me, through my different trials and challenges, I think, is what pushes me to keep going,
Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to add, just to anyone who's listening and anyone who might relate? Any words before we end this recording?
I've got a quote. I'm going to find it real quick, though, on my phone. But it's a quote about pain. And I'm pretty sure people have heard it before, especially, my anime fans out there. But it's a quote from Naruto. It's, sometimes you must hurt in order to know, fall in order to grow, and lose in order to gain. And it's powerful because you think about just like all the things that you really have to let go of to be able to obtain at the same time. It's like an equal balance, that you think about. So whatever other people are going through, just know that there's someone else that is experiencing what you're experiencing, but think about it on like a mirror almost. Know that people have feelings and that they reflect and resonate with what you're feeling. So whatever way it makes sense to connect with those people or find those people, I encourage you to lean into that in whatever way that you can, and know that you have a community and people behind you that are going to support you and that feel what you're feeling.
Thank you, Kid Cobb.
That was the interview Sara did with Kid Cobb. Now you will be hearing the interview that I, Josie Jensen, did with Skin.
Probably the biggest pain that I've carried is probably a pain that I haven't even dealt with, that's something tucked down in there that I've built my own habits around, or my own addictions, or things that, because you have a way of shutting them off. It's like a flash bomb. You learn, and one of them was always my son, for sure, but that quest isn't over, and I'm not allowed to carry the pain that I carried the first years because he's over 18 now. So we have a right to find each other. So I've had to kind of push that pain in a different direction. It was almost a selfish pain that I carried at that time. It was almost part of, oh, this is why I'm trying so hard so I can get there. I think the biggest pain that I carry is it kills me, it hurts to be a native in today's world and our spirits still, our spirit makes it, I'm only going to take what I need and leave what I don't. And the history books didn't write the world that way. So one of the reasons I feel that I'm so, and I say this humbly, but I honestly mean this, prolific, but I don't have what I need, is because my spirit is from this United States before it was the United States. And I move that way, like everything, it's all 50-50. It's like I only need this. And so like that's pained my life a whole bunch. Like I've never gotten to where I'm supposed to be, and I'm around the greatest people in the world, and I've made a majority of them, and I'm honestly not better, but I'm as good at least. And I don't own a house, I don't own a car, the car I want. I don't have those things, and that's because my people was forced to live to this, what we're living in now. We were here before it was even called America. So I think the biggest pain is having to deal with my spirit and my connection to the earth and still try to survive in a bunch of politicians running around with their heads cut off. Say that's my biggest pain, is not fitting in a place that is my home.
What does it feel like when you're experiencing this pain? Or you feel it in your body,
I hate everybody. You know, it turns into a hate. And this is coming from someone over 50, so it took me a long time to get. I was always scared to use that word, and it's still a scary word to use. But I hate what the forefathers built. I hate what they taught them. They taught them greed. They taught them to take everything from us, you know, and you know it. But how I cope with it, you know, smoke the fuck out of weed and try to be healthy, you know, like like stretch and breathe. I breathe and stretch a lot, and learn to force myself to get up, because I carry a depression that's with me that has actually became a part of my normal life. And it's this last year or so is the first year I think that I've got where not every single day I wake up and my first thought is I hate it here. You know, I thought that was normal to wake up and I'd be like, fuck, I hate life. This is whack. This shit sucks. And then get up and get some coffee, smoke something, and then go out and attack the world and be the person that you know. Mr. Positive, gives everybody a hug, goes hard in the paint for anybody he loves, you know. But the main thing I've learned in the last few years is to congratulate myself some days when the only thing I did was get out of bed. There's days that when I just get out of bed, I go, fuck, man, I made it out of bed. Today was one of them. I didn't want to get out of bed today. Woke up anxiety, you know, and depression, I don't know. Hopefully you don't deal with it. But if you do, and the older you get with some of the things, sometimes depression actually physically hurts. Like you can't get out of bed. And you just have to force yourself to do it, you know, and be happy when you get a good meal in your stomach, or, you know, appreciate the small things and appreciate the big things as well. I'm still learning how to heal myself, but it's like making yourself a priority. I finally got myself in a position where I'm happy to get up every day. Like this last Christmas that just came, even though I don't really have a family, I don't really celebrate nothing, I wasn't sad on Christmas Day, because I know what I'm doing right now. I'm getting close to something where the finances are catching up with the dreams, and that's exciting because I force myself to get up every day, and once it gets to where it's at, I'm going to be able to help, you know, because that's the whole thing for me is like I need to get to where I want to get at really quick right now so I can start giving back. Because we have to be able to teach our people how to, I was saying today with one of my black partners, I said, we don't got to look out for our own. We've got to teach them how to be bosses and stay in the job. Like, we can't necessarily rewrite how it's supposed to be, but if we're owners, we can't play favors. We have to show them how to be here. We have to show them how to sit at the table. Because one of the things that we get there by surviving. And so when we get there by surviving, it means everything in the world to us. And the other kids that got there, not by privilege, but by privilege, when they get up and leave, they go home. They're not thinking about us. When we're surviving off of trauma, we think about it all the way till the next time we see them.
Right, most definitely. And with everything that you've shared and the pain that you've shared and how you've coped with it, how do you want this story and this pain to be received or held by other people? How do you want other people to react hearing this?
Well, I think the thing is, a year ago, I would have gave 5 years ago, a year ago, I would be able to give you the answer of what we look at when we go into doing a documentary or a podcast, right? But the thing is, I'm at the point where I made it past it. So I don't have a bunch of exciting things to say because it was so garbage to get to here that every day I forget about it now. So the thing is, I would say you caught me at a point where I'm like, I'm getting to where I needed to get to through all the pain. So know that it goes away, and you can love yourself at some point. And not that it's a bad thing, but not meaning love yourself in some sort of self-medicated way from someone that actually you can at some point, you just get up and go, yeah, I'm the shit. This is cool. I'm cool with who I am. Like, I'm really cool. I'm really excited about these next 30 years because I don't got to try no more. Like, people can just come find us. And, like, if they find me, you'll get something interesting out of me because, like, I was fortunate. I'm very, me and your father and Fisk and all of us, we made it so far into the second half of our years. And we have to be appreciative to that because there's so many people that aren't even here that were our peers. Like, the older we get, we don't hear about our friends having babies. We hear about our friends dying. So, I'm very appreciative that I'm 51. Like I ran so hard in the streets, I should have never been here, but I am. And so yeah, just if you fight through your pain, how you learn to deal with it. Someday if you do what you're supposed to and you stick to it, it'll feel good. You'll feel good. There will be moments that you really, really like who you are. That's important.
That was Skin Stories to Hold. Now you'll be hearing some reflections from me and Sara on the interviews that we did.
How was interviewing Corn for you? What was that experience like? And anything reflections on that interview?
Yeah, it was interesting because we are together at this point, so our dynamic is usually a little different. I'm usually the talker, I externally process, and he just sort of listens. And so it was nice to be so intentional and ask him these questions and just give him complete silence and attention. Because often in a conversation, it's very back and forth. But doing something like this and giving a person sort of the unlimited time and space to share their train of thought, what they're thinking, is so interesting because you really feel like you get to step in to their point of view a little bit. And I don't know, I've always processed things that way. Like in my mind, when I hear stories, I visualize it, and it was really cool to do that with Corn. It's a way you connect with people when you do these sort of experiences. And it also makes you think about your own life and if you have felt what they're feeling in some way, shape, or form. Because he talked about losing people and the pain of carrying that every day. And I'm the type of person that hasn't really experienced a lot of death in my family. Recently I have, thanks to COVID. So I just thought about that and my recent experience with loss and how some people have carried that for, more than a year now. And it's just interesting to me that the pain that felt so fresh to me is something that he had been carrying for a while now. And just seeing somebody down the road of where I'm possibly going to find myself, and seeing that the pain is still there. You don't forget the things that have happened, the things that have hurt you, but you learn to live with it. And like he mentioned at the end, being grateful for what you do have, just on that specific topic, I feel like. So it was inspiring in a way.
Yeah, cool. No, yeah, something I really liked just like listening back to your interview was just the amount of space like between, like you said, like Korn is someone who is very intentional with his words, and you can definitely like see that in the interview, like just the amount of time he takes to answer his questions. You can tell that he's doing that. And also with you too, like I really just like the use of like silence and just like really taking as much time as like was needed to respond to the questions. And no, another thing about this is like some of these questions, like I never asked that to Skin, and so I never also for me like although I grew up around him and like he's been a big part of my life, like I never asked him those specific questions, and I didn't know what he was gonna say when I asked him those questions. So it's also been an opportunity for me to just get a lot closer, like with the people that are already close to me, and like because sometimes we don't even talk about these things with the people that are closest to us.
Well said. That's so true. That's why this is a really interesting concept, because the idea of just recording yourself talk about these things, it's like you're not really just telling you or just telling me, you're telling everyone, you're telling the world, you're presenting yourself and your experiences how you want to communicate them. And I think that there's a certain thing about that setting that allows people to be more honest and dig deeper, and also lose themselves in their thoughts a little, because I can notice that as people talk, it feels like the story grows and develops, and what they continue to say is affected by what they're feeling as they remember and they're talking about the story. I think with Skin's interview, like listening to it, it was shocking for me, because a lot of people are not honest about like substance use and things like that, and how it's affected them and others. And I just thought it was really brave for someone to be so honest about who they are, because being able to stand in your truth like that, I feel like is so freeing, just even hearing it, because there's a history of that in my family, like substance use. A lot of people can probably say the same. Maybe even closer to them, like immediate family. And I think being able to talk about things like that is, again, just very healing. I just keep feeling that way, because it's somebody like sharing with you something that you thought was yours alone to carry and be burdened by. And yet there are people out here who are, way older than us, who have been coping with the same things. And it's almost like we get to build a support system for people who listen in, because if you relate to someone, then it's going to help you feel that same way.
Right.
That was the first episode of Stories to Hold, podcast by Josie, Jensen, and Sara Trujillo. Thank you for listening. We hope you got something from this and that this encourages anyone listening to be brave and to ask these questions of yourself and to share your story in spaces where you know it'll be held in the way you want it to be. We'll see you in the next episode.